Iraq is no stranger to turmoil. The country has seen little peace and even less stability since the US-led invasion of 2003. Mass protests and violence have regularly engulfed the state. These, though, are the worst since the overthrow of Saddam Hussein 16 years ago. Hundreds killed, dozens in just 1 week by live ammunition, many thousands injured amid a heavy crackdown by security forces. The government's deployed special forces, imposed curfews and an internet blackout across the whole country. But that's just angered crowds even more. Key roads and bridges have been blocked by demonstrators who have also tried to take over buildings both in the capital, Baghdad, and across other cities. And why is this happening? Well, to some, these protests address years of grievances: corruption, unemployment, poor public services. They're a source of anger across many countries, but in Iraq, things should be different. Iraq should be thriving. The country's oil revenue has exceeded $850 billion in the post-Saddam years, with production nearly doubling despite the internal strife. With Iraq estimated to hold almost 10% of the globe's proven reserves, its prospects should be growing. Our report by the International Energy Agency predicts revenue to hit nearly $5 trillion in just over 15 years' time. An optimistic estimate set back by years of conflict, but you get the picture. Just months ago, energy giants Exxon and BP were fighting for the right to build a pipeline in the country with tens of billions of dollars at stake. And yet, reality for most Iraqis is bleak. Last year, Iraq was ranked 168th out of 180 by a corruption index. But for people surviving on a day-to-day basis, that's one of the smallest concerns. The World Food Programme reveals more than half of Iraqis are at risk of food insecurity, with UNICEF figures last year showing 1 in 4 children living in poverty. So what happened? Former US Defense Secretary Robert Gates stated on a visit to Baghdad that a new era was just around the corner.
More than ever, I believe the goal of a secure and stable and democratic Iraq is within reach.
Almost 12 years on, things couldn't be further from the truth. Now, to make sense of post-intervention Iraq and where exactly its grievances lie, let's speak to Nicholas J. Davis, author of Blood on Our Hands, The American Invasion and Destruction of Iraq. Mr. Davis, thanks so much for joining us today. Good to have you with us. Now, these protests, they've been going on since mid-October. They've shown no sign of slowing down. Indeed, there's been a government crackdown condemned by many organisations. Where do these grievances lie that are spilling out with such violence all over the country?
The people of Iraq, are still, have really been ignored in all this. They're still suffering from the absolute destruction and economic devastation of Iraq by the US invasion and occupation.
By statistics, Iraq having 10%, nearly 10% of the world's oil reserves, this should be a wealthy state, yet we're seeing something quite different here. How much of this is about that inequality, about that wealth which is not trickling down, which is being lost, going down the drain to a corrupt system?
There were large state-owned companies that were the very basis of the Iraqi economy, and they supported this, mixed economy beyond that. That was all completely destroyed. Unemployment under the U.S. occupation at one point reached at least 60%. Essentially, the sort of, pyramid of power in, occupied and post-occupation Iraq, where, this tiny group of US and Iranian-backed exiles has, with US and Iranian support, created a monopoly on power that the vast majority of the disenfranchised, alienated people of Iraq have never supported. The US really has completely discredited itself from start to finish. It has done nothing that has helped the people of Iraq at all, either before or after the invasion.